In the realm of paranormal investigations, there are cases so chilling, so bewildering, that they refuse to fade into obscurity. They linger in our collective consciousness, raising more questions than answers. One such case gripped the world in the 1970s, becoming not only a subject of intense debate, but also inspiring a widely talked about Hollywood film. This is the story of Doris Bither, better known as the woman behind the entity. The story begins in Culver City, California, in the modest, unassuming home where Doris Bither lived with her 4 children. To outsiders, there was nothing remarkable about Doris. A single mother, struggling to make ends meet, raising her kids the best she could. But inside that home, behind closed doors, a reality far stranger and far darker was unfolding, one that many would struggle to believe. In 1974, Doris reached out to a group of paranormal researchers from UCLA. Desperate and terrified, she claimed she was being tormented by a violent and malevolent force. This wasn't your average haunting. According to Doris, she was being attacked in unimaginable and horrific ways. When the investigators Barry Taff and Kerry Gaynor arrived at her home, they were skeptical. Both had been involved in dozens of supernatural investigations, but as science-minded researchers, their focus was on observing and documenting phenomena, not jumping to conclusions. However, when they met Doris, they quickly realized this was no ordinary case. Doris alleged that she was not only being terrorized, but physically assaulted by an invisible entity. Actually, by 3 entities. She described them as a dominant, aggressive force surrounded by 2 smaller but equally menacing presences. And while the claims might have sounded outlandish to some, her terror was real. There were bruises on her body, scratches along her arms and legs. She even claimed that these attacks sometimes happened in front of her children, right there in the open. Understandably, Doris's accounts were met with skepticism. But as the investigators dug deeper, they began to uncover more unsettling details. For one, the history of Doris's life hadn't been an easy one. She'd faced significant personal trauma over the years, including turbulent relationships, emotional instability, and an abusive childhood. In the world of the paranormal, such personal turmoil is often thought to act as fuel for supernatural disturbances. And then there was the house itself. The investigators learned that before Doris's family had moved in, the property had a reputation for being troubled. While details were murky, locals whispered about strange occurrences dating back years. It was the perfect storm, a history of trauma and a location steeped in foreboding energy. As Taff and Gaynor began their investigation, Doris revealed that the entity seemed to grow more violent when someone called attention to it. This was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it meant there was potential to provoke and document the activity. On the other, it posed a real danger, not only to Doris but to everyone present. Despite the risks, Doris permitted the researchers to set up equipment and stay in the house for several observation sessions. What happened next chilled even the most skeptical members of the team. During one of their visits, the researchers reportedly witnessed an event that defied logic. As Doris stood in the center of her bedroom, engaging with them in conversation, the room's air seemed to shift. The temperature dropped suddenly, unnaturally, and then they saw it. Light, small glowing orbs began to dance around the space. At one point, the orbs appeared to merge together, forming a vague human-like outline. It was as though something was trying to manifest, attempting to make itself visible. Startled but determined, the team tried to document the phenomenon. Unfortunately, most of their camera equipment only captured faint distortions, barely detectable anomalies. That said, to those present in the room, one thing was clear: something was there. Over the course of weeks, Doris's claims continued to escalate. Violent encounters so horrifying they were difficult for even the most seasoned investigators to process. But she wasn't the only one reporting experiences. Her children corroborated the strange phenomena, recalling objects flying across the room, eerie disembodied voices, and even witnessing the mother being thrown to the ground by an invisible force. Despite the mounting evidence, the case presented challenges. Many of the events could not be fully captured on film, leaving skeptics to dismiss the claims as hysteria, exaggeration, or even an elaborate hoax. Others theorized that Doris's emotional health played a role, suggesting that her alleged poltergeist activity was a result of psychokinesis, a form of unconscious energy projection fueled by psychological stress. In this theory, Doris herself was unknowingly creating the disturbances. But could that really explain the physical attacks? The glowing lights? The apparitions witnessed by multiple people? The case walked a thin line between science and the supernatural, a space that offers more questions than answers. As time went on, Doris and her family became overwhelmed by the sheer intensity of the phenomena. The activity didn't stop. It only grew worse. Eventually, Doris decided to move, hoping that leaving the house would put an end to her suffering. But according to her, the entity followed. No matter where she went, it was there, stalking her like a shadow. She lived several more years in relative obscurity before passing away in the 1990s. To this day, the ultimate truth of what happened to Doris remains contested. What her case did do, however, was spark widespread interest far beyond paranormal research circles. It inspired the 1982 film The Entity, which dramatized her experiences in a way that pushed the boundaries of horror cinema. The movie painted her as both a victim of supernatural forces and a symbol of resilience against unimaginable odds. But the Hollywood version, as is often the case, took liberties. While it helped keep her story alive, it also blurred the line between fact and fiction. For those who read about or investigated a case firsthand, the lingering question remains the same. What really happened to Doris Bither? Were her claims the result of a deep-seated psychological phenomenon? Was it a manifestation of untreated trauma? Or was it something much more sinister, something beyond our current understanding? Those who were there, those who saw the lights, witnessed the bruises, and felt the oppressive energy of that house, might argue that the mundane explanations fall short. But skeptics would insist that there's always a rational answer, no matter how elusive it may be. Whatever the truth, the Doris Bither case continues to confound experts, provoke debate, and captivate our imagination. It reminds us that the boundary between the explainable and the unexplainable is thinner than we might think. Perhaps thin enough for something or someone to reach through.